Hi guys, welcome to my channel. It's time for Sunday morning teaching, spiritual teaching. I was biblically, I can't even talk today, biblically trained, and since my time in college, I've dived into the Bible a little deeper. Taught myself how to pick it apart, how to look at it from a scholarly point of view, and all the scholars agree that the Bible needs an additional translation, especially, and my thing is, especially poetical books. The one poetical book that I have adopted as mine, that I dive in and kind of tear it apart, and pick it apart and dive in deeper to find the hidden meanings in it and the hidden messages, is Song of Solomon. Solomon was given gift of wisdom when he asked for, God gave him the opportunity to ask for anything and he would give it to him. Solomon asked for wisdom. God gave him far exceeding what he was asking for when in terms of wisdom. So when you dive into the book of Song of Solomon, what you end up finding is hidden meanings, hidden messages. What we've been taught, what many people have been taught, is that Song of Solomon is about relationship, metaphorical relationship, or this. It's written as a symbolic relationship between you and God, another meaning is a marital relationship between you and your significant other. That it's symbolic of that, but it's symbolic of the relationship that you have with God. Not what I found. That is one topical meaning to it. What I found much deeper was a journey through the wilderness. And the one verse I wanted to cover to start out the spiritual teachings, I really feel like every Sunday I'm going to do this, is Song of Solomon, chapter 1, verse 5. It took me 15 years from graduating Bible college. 15 years until I was sitting in an algebra class in another college online to where I understood the problem with the way the scripture was laid out. The way the scripture, or what the scripture says is, I am black but comely, O ye daughters of Jerusalem, like the tents of Kedar, like the curtains of Solomon. I was sitting in an algebra class learning equations or relearning equations when I realized that the verse, when it was translated, it wasn't translated in the right sequence. It's a poem. So poetically it was listed that way, but you have to go back and rearrange it. What the actual verse makes more sense in the way it should be read is, O ye daughters of Jerusalem, I am black like the tents of Kedar, but comely like the curtains of Solomon. The reference to being, let's take the first little segment. We'll get to O ye daughters of Jerusalem in a minute. I am black like the tents of Kedar. We'll take the Kedarites first. The tents of Kedar was referring to the Kedarites was the descendants of Canaan, and they were a raiding tribe in the wilderness. The tent that is referring to of the black color of the tent, if you look at the tabernacle in the wilderness, the outer covering of the actual tabernacle, of inside where the mercy seat was located, there was different layers to it. Now, if you study the tabernacle, every single piece of the tabernacle was symbolic of something else, was symbolic of our walk with God, symbolic of Jesus' sacrifice, There's symbols in every piece of the tabernacle. The tent and the coverings of the tent, there were layers of them. The outer layer was the darkest hide, animal hide, that there was. Because that animal hide, that dark color, was to absorb the sun by day so that it would cool off inside of the actual tent, so that by night the heat that was absorbed when the temperature in the wilderness lowered, it would keep the inside warm. So what the animal hide coverings of the actual tabernacle, where the mercy seat was located, that was for the sole purpose of keeping it at an even temperature, day and night. But that outer hide goes through the beatings of the weather. The sun glares on it, whatever the weather is, it takes that beating, that outer cover. The verse was talking spiritually, that's the way I interpret it. Spiritually, though, it's I am black like the tents of Kedar. That speaks to me about wilderness experience, dark night of the soul. When you go through where God is pulling stuff out of you, or when the divine is pulling stuff out of you, when you're going through a cleansing, a healing, all of the shadow work that you're doing and all of the past trauma that you're facing, you're set in this realization of how dark that you can actually be on your way to the light, because you have to face those things, you have to heal those things, they have to be pulled out of you. In the process, though, when you go through that, our flesh is designed to fight against anything spiritual. So the actual scripture, I am black like the tents of Kedar, is referring to I am going through that change. I'm going through that transformation process. I am facing my shadows. I am healing. And I am fighting against it. This isn't pretty. This isn't nice. I feel terrible. There are some dark nights of the soul where you feel so uncomfortable you can't stand yourself. Nothing's right. It's almost like there's cards on the table. It's almost like God picks up the deck of cards of your life, tosses it in the air, and they go everywhere. Then you have to rearrange everything. But as you pick up each individual card, it's pointing out those things that have to be dealt with in your life. It could be relationships. It could be the way you think about relationships. Childhood trauma. You have to do inner child work, soul retrieval, all types of things that could come out of it. But our flesh is designed to fight against those spiritual movements, that spiritual growth. Because we are designed to fight against God. This is why when anything traumatic happens to you, and I've had this, losing my husband, I went through this, where for over a year I would ask why. I was mad at God for several months. That is part of who we are. And I will disagree with many spiritual people that say that, oh no, he holds it against you. I really don't believe he holds it against you. I don't. When we have that anger of things not feeling right, and there's been a toss-up in our life, and we're going through that healing, and that it's kind of, he accepts the fact that this is going to be the reaction that you go through. Anyway, So he doesn't hold it against us as part of the healing process. That is what's going to happen. When I was in Bible college, the worst possible thing that you could do is have 50 students, or at least half of them, fasting at the same time. The ugliness that was coming out of each individual person was all on the same stage. That's when the true lower vibrational nature of each person bump heads with each other. It's not pretty. But in the process of that, because our flesh is constantly fighting against the spiritual things of God, that's the part of the process. That's the reason the writer, Solomon, describes it as, I am black like the tents of Kedar. It was in reference to spirituality. Like the Bible is designed as any spiritual book. Well, actually, the Bible is designed it's a mirror for yourself. So whatever verse speaks to you on whatever level, absolutely use it in your toolkit. But I'm looking at it from spiritual point of view. But he referred to that process as being your now equivalent to the warring, bandit, stealing tribe in the wilderness. That's how you feel in the process, in the midst of that process. The other part of the verse says, but I am comely like the curtains of Solomon. The curtains of Solomon were those hand-embroidered, hand-stitched curtains that stood between the priest and the Ark of the Covenant, the mercy seat. They were so strong, I believe, that so many yoke of oxen couldn't, as they were pulling in separate direction, couldn't destroy them. They were hand-embroidered. They were embroidered with specific details of what was supposed to be on them. God gives the description early on in the Old Testament. But the entire purpose of that second portion is to say, even though right now I may feel like I look terrible, I feel terrible, can't deal with people, can't even deal with myself right now, I am beautiful. Comely to me, I love the word comely. I'm a writer, I love words. And certain words stick with me, and comely is one of those words. And to me, comely is an upgrade of beautiful. It is almost like when you have a character or your avatar on a video game and you've worked hard to upgrade it. That's what comely is. Comely is the combination of being beautiful spiritually and physically, but it's an upgrade of that. It's like a wholesome, no blemishes, without blemish. It's a beautiful word. I even prefer that word over beauty or beautiful or acceptable. I love the word comely. So the verse goes, I am black like the tents of Kedar, but comely like the curtains of Solomon. Even though you feel terrible, feel yucky, like I said, you can't stand yourself, can't stand other people because you're going through a dark night of soul, knee deep in the wilderness. You're facing your shadows. You're dealing with inner child work. You're dealing with soul retrieval. There's healing that's happening that you can't even put a name on. You just feel odd. You're learning new things. Old things are passing away so that the new things can come about. There's not even a description of how bad it can be for yourself, but you are still spiritually beautiful or spiritually comely. I love that word. Because you are strong, you can do it, and it's in your design. And the outcome is going to be even far more beautiful than what you are now. And you could be an enlightened individual. You can be a teacher, guru, shaman. You can be prophet, prophetic. You can be so far like in the light that you still have to go through those stages to get closer to the divine, to get closer to God. You will still go through feeling all types of way. But it took me 15 years because that verse was brought to me because of an inappropriate situation where someone used the verse to make somebody feel better in college. It was terrible. But when I started diving deeper into it and saw the truth behind it, it should be in everyone's toolkit that spiritually is trying to evolve and be more of light and get rid of their dark places. Because what ultimately it does, it's an encouragement. Even though I feel like that now and I feel like I'm in a pit and I can't get out of it and there's dark crap that's coming up from years ago that I thought was healed, but it's the root that's being pulled out. Even though that's happening, the encouragement is, but you are beautiful because you've been designed to be beautiful. You're designed according to the perfect design. You are beautiful inside and out, and what the resulting destination where you're going and the result of all of this work, you're going to be even far more beautiful, far more comely than you are now. Because you are going there, you're putting the work in. Even if it's slow moving steps, still steps that you're taking. You're still moving. Like I have kids. So ultimately, the verse points to spiritual journey and becoming more and healing and facing those dark places in yourself. And remembering that you're facing those dark places because you have a destination. I'm pretty sure people get confused by my own journey, and they always have. But there's one thing that I have to always remind myself, whichever thing that I learned, whatever new skill I learned, whatever books I learned, whatever I'm diving into even deeper, or whatever business I start, or whatever new craft I do, I see it as a learning experience, and it's transferable skills to elsewhere in my life. But I also see it as I'm moving forward. I haven't stopped where I am. I am not giving up. No matter what's happened in my life, I keep moving forward. So whatever is happening, all of us should be going through a growth period right now anyway. And we're all feeling yucky, and we're probably, many are bumping heads with each other. Allow that healing to take place and keep growing, because you're evolving and you're becoming more of light. Face those shadows, face those dark places, even if you have to set up healthy boundaries in order to do so. You have to disconnect from certain relationships. Sometimes when I do that, it's just so that I can work on me. If I'm putting all this effort into a relationship and it's not being reciprocated, even if it's friends, family, whatever, I will take a step back, because I'm not going to be the only one working on this. I will take a step back and I will work on me. I will do what's on my path to do. I keep moving forward. There are some relationships that are like that, though, that will keep you in those shadow places. Don't stay in those shadow places. Allow that to be pulled out, and it's going to be uncomfortable. There's a difference between being in a beneficial growth relationship with someone else and being in a soul tie. And that was the biggest lesson I learned. One of the biggest lessons I learned in college was about the entire soul tie dynamic. Sometimes soul ties are so tied up in the other person. Like that tie is controlling, it's draining. almost to where you share the same emotions, you're a different person. If you're in that relationship where you're sharing those things where you have to look for the other person for approval, there's like a different dynamic to that relationship that may need a step back too. I think a lot of the shadow work that's going on in the child, like going back into your childhood and that level of healing, I think a lot of that is relationships right now. Because once we face a different level of communication, social interaction when we can, there should be a different level of that interaction. Because a lot of changes need to happen, and we see that from the world around us. A lot of changes need to happen, and they are happening. My prayers go out to every person, every one of you. My prayers, my heart, because I know how difficult it is to, like, my heart goes out to you. So, I'm going to leave you with a grateful heart. I'm going to leave you with a card. Let's see which card we get. And a blessing. The Lord your God will bless you in all your harvest and all the work of your hands, and your joy will be complete. One side. The other side is, in him our hearts rejoice, for we trust in his holy name. May your unfailing love be with us. Lord, even as we put our hope in you. Psalm 33, 21 to 22. Beautiful. So be blessed. I hope this helps. And keep growing. No matter how uncomfortable you feel, you're heading to a destination. Trust me, you're becoming more of light, but you have to face those dark places to get rid of them. To face them, acknowledge them, to find out what is at the root of those dark places. What happened, what was the trauma, what was the incidents leading up to it. You have to take a deeper view of that and ask yourself uncomfortable questions. So, God bless. See you soon.